That brings us to our last series of the day, fr0zen versus bloodyface. fr0zen playing for a spot where you can cement himself in the playoffs. bloodyface guaranteed playoffs with some movement earlier today, but also can play for #1 spot. And if you take a look, a little bit different in deviation, we have a paladin protect, paladin ban for fr0zen.
We did highlight this paladin at the beginning of the day. fr0zen playing the Highlander paladin and protecting it, which is very cool. I don't know if it's super powerful, but it is very cool. This is more of like an aggressive Highlander paladin. At the beginning of the set release, we saw Highlander paladins trying to do the Holy Wrath and Shrivala combo and playing like additional control tools and like Sir Finley and fr0zen there. Then players just realized that the normal Holy Wrath paladin, but throwing fr0zen anyway, was just a much higher success rate. So now, players experimenting with the Highlander paladin. We've seen it on ladder be a big force in the metagame. It was about time that we see it in Grandmasters, and fr0zen, coming in this week, guns blazing with the protect on that paladin.
That's
we'll
right,
see how
TJ.
it fares against Priest.
It's the first time Highlander Paladin's being brought to Grandmasters, according to my data. It's the first time Highlander Paladin's ever been protected, which is always very amusing to me because would bloodyface even ban that paladin anyways, right?
Probably not.
Maybe.
Unless he tests against it very extensively, which, keep in mind, he has 2 opponents per week. So it's like you're testing against one deck, potentially from one of your opponents. And even then, like, how do you have to read that someone's going to bring Highlander Paladin and protect it? I don't know. But we have seen a lot of respect bans when players bring, odd things. We've seen like Highlander Hunter bans and Highlander Mage bans in situations where players just don't really want to deal with it. So maybe if fr0zen doesn't protect it, bloodyface is like, I just want to keep this kind of standard in the norm. I don't want to deal with this out of left field deck. I'm going to just ban it away just so I don't have to worry about it. So maybe that's fr0zen's reasoning for protecting it. Maybe style points. I don't know.
I don't think it's necessarily style points. The thing is that fr0zen...
No, it's style points.
Maybe. But I think he also has potentially just more insight into it. He's been climbing with it on stream. He's done a pretty good job of fleshing it out and even making changes to it. And I think that he brings it for a specific reason, right? Like maybe he's trying to challenge the priests early on because it has so much momentum.
That's a tough thing to do, though. We've seen players try and challenge priests. The only thing that's really had a lot of success has been Highlander Mage. But this paladin does have a lot of tools to be able to contest an early game.
Ooh, Brazen Zealot.
Yep.
Brazen Zealot on 1 into stuff.
Anything. It's summon him into. You could just hero power on 2, and then it can challenge a Northshire Cleric.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff, like Mekaru, Glowtron, any of those into Blessing of Might, or Abusive Sergeant, or HedgeClan Hogsteed. Like, all of those things allow you to deal with the early plays. It's got half the deck is 2 mana or less. Nearly half the deck is 2 mana or less. Actually, exactly half the deck. So you're almost always going to have a play to do early game, and the plays are oftentimes pretty powerful. Surprisingly enough, Paladin has some of the best, like most efficient 1-drops in the game. With Glowtron, with Brazen Zealot.
Job's done.
Nothing will ever
No
contest
1-drop
Northshire.
for the priest, but yeah, Brazen Zealot is pretty good in this spot here.
Hitting today.
And because of Blessing and Might, you can challenge any early game play. And bloodyface probably going to want to challenge that in some capacity here. He can challenge it. He can actually clear it with the Wild Pyromancer Circle of Healing, but that's a big commitment.
It is a big commitment.
And at that point, Brazen Zealot's like, okay, great.
Yeah, I got 2 cards out of my opponent. Sweet.
Pass.
Yikes.
History buff. So History buff is a pretty interesting card to me because I didn't really respect that card very much. And in playtesting, It bopped me really hard because it kept buffing just like the same thing, and then Tiamat came out as like a 9/9, and then I just got way out-tempoed. It was pretty quickly getting out of control. And so it's like all these snowball cards, right? Like Brazen Zealot gets bigger, history buff keeps getting stuff. All you gotta do is add the Sand Wasp's Queen, and then you're just like buffing things 3 times in your hand. And then Ziliax comes out as a 5/4, or even the Spellbreaker coming out for extra tempo. And then you start thinking, oh, this is kind of like the Kel'Seth effect, where like there's just too many minions that have just a little bit too much buffs and things get out of control.
Dan, for the big glowstone enthusiast that you are, I'm surprised that you wouldn't just have an innate respect for history buff.
I just haven't seen it very much.
Yeah.
And now I do respect the history buff. Histology, maybe finding his own beaming sidekick. Finds it. Whoa. That's big. History buff won't die anymore now. Interesting enough, fr0zen trying to think about what we can use for the last 2 mana, and I think Blessing of Wisdom plus card draw is good. Highlander Paladin can struggle a little bit with the card draw.
Hey,
and I think that's actually resulted in one of the most important cards being Octosari.
Yep. Magic Carpet and Mekaru also. Ziliax is buffed from the history buff.
Topsy-turvy trade.
Ouch.
Is that what we're forced to do in this spot? Topsy-turvy trade, Psychopomp. I guess you want a Psychopomp first, right?
Yeah. And he does it in this order in case he gets Wild Pyromancer, which I think he's guaranteed Wild Pyromancer, and it's died.
Yes, really well done. Still doesn't change the fact that fr0zen's got Magic Carpet Mekaru and trade it to the board.
Yeah.
I mean, trading resources plus Zephrys to keep going.
And the train doesn't stop there. He's got a buffed up Ziliax, Zephrys, Spellbreaker. He's got answers to everything that bloodyface could possibly do.
That's a big oof. I don't know what bloodyface can really do in this position here outside of just kind of let fr0zen extend to the board, and that Magic Carpet is so threatening.
Yeah.
Is it just forced to play the other cards that he has, like trade and then play Neverset Ritualist?
I mean, you could think it's threatening, but he hasn't seen Sand Wasp Queen. So there's no 1-drops from there. He's already seen Mekaru. He's already seen Brazen Zealot. He's already seen Beaming Sidekick.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's like Abusive Sergeant and Glowtron are really the only like ways that he can capitalize on a Magic Carpet being on board. So only 2 cards left in the deck out of 19 or 23 that you can consider with the ones in hand.
Not too quickly.
You can manipulate Zephrys to give you a Flame Imp.
You could. No, I mean, Hero Power is Zephrys, and you're going to get a Flame Imp.
Right.
It's not the most efficient use of Zephrys in most cases, but that's a 4/2 with Rush for 1.
Yeah. Ziliax just looks good here for fr0zen. It's a 4/3 minion, and he has 6 power on the board to challenge most things. Bonsami still doesn't come out until the following turn, so he's going to be in a good spot here.
Yep.
I like the Ziliax.
Let me think.
You can even magnetize it, but I think it's better separate.
Yeah, just having more attacks, more options. You've seen a Wild Pyromancer, so that is the only one that bloodyface plays.
Swing and a miss.
Yep. I wonder if fr0zen could set up something like Zephrys Soul of the Forest. I don't think that's very good, but
I wonder.
it's interesting. Oh, the bluff.
Yeah, just pretending like he has a silence of some kind.
Yeah, yeah. Very weird. Makes you think a little bit, though.
Makes you think a little bit.
If bloodyface can make fr0zen have a little bit weaker of a turn,
Well,
because
fr0zen,
he's thinking about silence, I don't know.
fr0zen can set up a Van Cleave right now. He can Blessing of Might, Zephyrus, and offer a Van Cleave, and that's
Yep.
actually a reasonable amount of power that's spread across a bunch of things.
Yeah.
It does make him a little bit vulnerable to exactly Pyromancer 3 spells.
And if he thinks that that far left card is a silence, maybe he's less tempted to go for something like that.
Well, silence wouldn't be the worst. I guess it would be pretty bad on like Van Cleave, but he's spreading out the damage, right? Blessing of Might on the carpet, Zephyrus.
Yeah, he would need Wild Pyromancer,
Like
silence,
Power
and then
Shield.
2 more spells. Spells that would keep the
Must move quickly.
Pyromancer alive.
Pyromancer alive.
He could alternatively just play like Spellbreaker and develop tempo.
Reporting for duty.
I think I like the Spellbreaker.
Yeah.
You have Subdue and Zephyrus. That's plenty
Your
of removal.
magic shall not save you.
Ooh, 1-drop picked up. The tourney wants to play one Somni. Still a lot of draw, though.
All the draw.
Oh, no. He
Oh, he has lethal.
Yeah.
Because the Zephyrus setup.
Yep.
That's going to do it.
Also, all the Wild Pyromancer plays we talked about last turn wouldn't be possible because he only plays a single Wild Pyromancer and he already played it. So
You're right.
he would have needed second Psychopomp rezzing the Wild Pyromancer into chaining spells.
Highlander Paladin.
Oh, yeah. Had 3 damage to spare, too. Look at that.
Well done. fr0zen goes up 1-0, and his pet deck, the Highlander Paladin that we've seen several other streamers climb with, like Soleil and Trump, ends up getting a 1-0 score record in Grandmasters. And realistically, TJ, if this deck never sees play again,
100%
Highlander
win rate.
Paladin was undefeated the entire season being played.
Well, with everything being kind of shaken up next week, maybe Highlander Paladin gets more powerful?
Every deck technically gets more powerful.
Yes, and
There's just no way you add that many cards and every deck just gets weaker.
but I think Highlander decks maybe benefit from the most because they just take out the like a weaker 30th card for something more
Like
powerful.
Ragnaros or like N'Zoth plus the Cartoon Defender, and that's just like a really good defensive game plan for like Highlander Mage.
We could speculate endlessly for what's going to happen, but
Last, we're going to take our last break of today, and when we come back, we're going to find out if that Game 1 victory with the Highlander Paladin will carry over for Game number 2.
Legends say powerful treasures are hidden everywhere here in Aldum.
If we hope to defeat Rafam, we'll need as many as we can get. He's already unleashed the ancient plague lords and countless monsters. Keep them distracted, Reno.
Not a problem. This plan is totally gonna work. Ain't that right, Finley?
Oh, yes! I have them right, Red Eye!
There is an artifact here. The name is...
The scales of justice. Oh, it must be really fancy.
only to be used in a time of great peril. Yes, I think this qualifies.
Hey, look, Finley! You've lured one of the Plague Lords!
Take this, fiend!
In the face! Yeah! Hey, guys! Get that treasure! We've got a Plague Lord to destroy!
Yes, please, hurry!
Not to worry, Finley. We'll just push this thing right here.
No, that's a trap! Watch out!
It's all good. I am totally tired.
Gracious me!
What we actually need to do is press this. And there. A fish.
No! It's the scales of justice!
Ah, who wants to use it first?
Oh, I do! Me! second thought, maybe give it to Finley?
All you had to do was hold a rope.
Here we go, blaming the tall, ruggedly handsome guy again.
Hello, my name is fr0zen. I play for Team Liquid, and my Twitter handle is @liquidfrozen. I came up with my username because it's very cold in Michigan, and I added the 0 instead of the O because it looks cool. I'm most looking forward to being able to play at the highest level every single weekend, being able to compete against some of the best players in North America. I think regionally, performance-wise, Europe has been a step ahead of us, slightly better than Americas. But I think that APAC, even though they have a lot of solid players, they are overall weaker than North America. So if I were to rank the regions, it would be EU first, NA second, and APAC third. If I could design a Hearthstone card, it would probably be 1 mana, 0/8. Whenever your opponent's rope burns, they take 5 damage. I've always tried to be the best and do whatever it takes. Hard work, a lot of practice. I think that's what really translates in Hearthstone as well.
Welcome back, everyone, to the conclusion of our first day here of week number 7. We're going to go into the next game with a Reno mage versus a druid matchup. This is something that I didn't expect to see really much, but fr0zen with back-to-back Highlander decks being brought, and the Highlander paladin getting that win. Still a big surprise, TJ, but I play that deck on ladder, and it's also crushing. And I think people don't know how to play against it, but also I think people really underestimate that deck.
Yeah, I'm certainly one of those. And, you know, I've kind of been trained mentally to not put too much stock into, like, ladder results when it comes to Grandmasters. One, because we've seen those trends be completely different. 2, the players keep telling us not to put stock into ladder decks. And 3, like if you look at like the top 3 ladder archetypes, those are like some of the bottom 3 in Grandmasters, which is kind of weird. But with the exception of Highlander Hunter, which because of APAC has performed surprisingly well, even though it's suffered in Europe and in Americas. But I do like it, and it's a really like unique deck, because I think out of all the Highlander cards, maybe it's just because we haven't seen it, it feels like Sir Finley is the one that has the coolest effect, because it comes down so early on into the game and you never know like the optimal choice. So like there's so much exploration that can be done with it, and so much exploration with, you know, what hero powers fit the best with the archetype of Highlander Paladin you're kind of playing.
All right, well, we're going to go into game number 2 with the Highlander Mage, trying to shut down that game plan that the Druid is going to have, building a big board as per usual. The Luna's Pocket Galaxy used to be a reason why the Druid kind of got phased out, because it would play stuff for really cheap. Frost Nova, a big board that Druid would develop, and the Druid got phased out of the game. In excuse me. Phased out of my system. Rest in peace. The Masters Tour Soul, where we had players playing Specialist. We still had some Druid players trying to fight against Mage. I think it was mostly Eddie that was trying to do that. Interesting stuff, but didn't really work out very well.
Well, I mean, he finished 8-4, I believe, which is a respectable score considering how much the field was flooded with mages pre-nerf.
Right.
Um,
He was a forerunner.
yes. But yeah, it was. You do nothing until turn 5. The mage does not much until turn 5. You complete quest. They play Luna's Pocket Galaxy. Luna's Pocket Galaxy wins almost every time in that exchange. Now, Druid gets to hit a couple power turns before Luna's Pocket Galaxy even comes online, and by turn 7, you're likely under too much pressure to ever be able to play it. Or the Druid has gotten such a head start that it's not as effective as it once was. Zephyrus just played onto the board here as a Bloodfen Raptor, whatever you want to call it. Just trying to have some way to contest the Snip Snap while also trying to, in a different sense, protect the Crystal Merchant. Another one.
It's a lot of card draw, and it starts to really snowball onto each other because the Crystal Merchant drawing deeper into the deck just makes Bloodyface's options better on turn 5 and 6. It's not just one card deeper, it's just one threat, one potential threat developed that's really hard for fr0zen to deal with.
Ooh.
Frost Nova Doomsayer. Although I don't know if it needs Frost Nova because the threat of Oasis Surger.
Yeah. Doomsayer, very tough to stick against Druid. They have to have like a full board, and you have to like dodge Starfall, Double Wrath, Oasis Surger, or Druid Lodi.
Well, to be honest, this has been my experience playing Reno Mage, which is drawing just a bunch of heavy stuff. I honestly think that Reno Mage might have to go through a complete makeover with the new patch coming through with all the wild cards. Largely because it's still so heavy-handed. It just doesn't feel like it has enough plays early game, and its consistency is very all over the place.
Yeah, it really is.
Sees the Oasis Surger. Another one with the Floop coming out. Geppetto Joybuzz comes into the hand, so Bloodyface can get some really cheap combo pieces. Malagos Druid being a very threatening deck in general against all these slower decks.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, fr0zen's under a lot of pressure already. You know, considering this is a combo deck that can deal upwards of 80+ damage, you know, it still can generate a lot of that early tempo that, you know, the normal Question has. Like, the only resources that they kind of cut is Cenarius, and even beyond that, some players bring King Feoris in Malagos.
Yeah. Bloodyface dumping a card, doesn't really matter, doesn't need that Starfall. The one card he's worried about burning is Malagos, I think.
You're in my hands now.
Yeah, it looks like fr0zen might be just dead very quickly this game. Oasis Surger again. Bloodyface just has to even pick up a couple of more things, and he just has the game locked because of Malagos Moonfires.
Wants to make sure that he doesn't, you know, get too overzealous and like disrespects Alexstrasza or Polymorph or anything like that. But outside of that, fr0zen doesn't really have too many massive punishes. Like, there's no, like, Hecklebot or Unseen Saboteur or anything like that where he has to kind of be mindful of. It's really on him to just make sure that he gives himself the best chance to win. Because he can kind of predict the most powerful plays that fr0zen can do each turn. Without Luna's Pocket Galaxy up, there's not any of these crazy things that he has to worry about.
Yeah, exactly. fr0zen, if he picks up if he plays the Zephyrus, he can pick up some AoE to help stall, but not enough
to
deal with everything. Might be. Oh, if he evocates, he can get the Twisting Nether in this spot. Yeah, gonna pull a trigger on the Twisting Nether.
Yep. Bloodyface did use a Moonfire.
I'll make you a real toy.
Dream Petal Florist.
So he's used Floop, he's used a Moonfire, he's used Zephyrus. Dream Petal Florist not guaranteed to hit, and now the max amount of Moonfires he could have is 2. He does still have a ton of pressure, though. You just Geppetto a 6/6 on board. Like he's seen a lot of the answers from fr0zen. He hasn't seen Polymorph. He hasn't seen Voodoo Doll. He hasn't seen Blizzard. He did see a Tortolan Pilgrim into Blizzard. So
Yeah, and him using the flute means that he can't go for the Florist flute combo that we've been seeing a lot.
Yeah. You know, normally you don't need that much damage unless you're playing against Warrior. The Forest Innervate Floop to guarantee the reduction on Malagos and Elise. To have like double Floop with those two as the only minions isolated in hand.
Yeah, I wonder if Bloodyface feels like he can get away with playing this Florist. I don't think he needs to.
Yeah.
Seems like he's perfectly fine without it. Overdraw? Burns Innervate. If he lost that Moonfire, I wonder how that changes things.
Yeah, he would have to like copy swipes. Or,
yeah, there's a chance that Bloodyface may have overdrawn a card that was important.
Yeah, or like tried to go for a
What to do?
like an early Elise and guarantee the Florist on Malagos that way. But there's still Alex Strauss in fr0zen's deck, so Bloodyface needs to make sure when he's going for the kill, he's either got 15 plus follow-up or a guaranteed victory from hand.
I mean, he can do that still, right? He can play a Noobsot Defender and Elise and just kind of isolate Malagos to just Dream Petal Florist. Looks like he's just going to play the Defender here in this spot. Can also drop the Dream Petal Florist, although it's not guaranteed to land on the Malagos again. So the hand dumping continues.
Yep. I mean, there's so many ways. He's at 50 health. He's not really under any pressure. He's got multiple turns, even if fr0zen makes a giant board.
Interesting. Although if he plays counterspells, he's just dead. Swipe put him down to 14. There's 9 on the board. Elise means he's just dead because there's Moonfire and Swipe. Oh, wait. Not necessarily, because it doesn't have to copy it.
He also doesn't know what it is, though. That could, you know, change his plays.
Right.
But now he can just attack face, doesn't see it, Moonfire. If it's counterspell, he just loadies and swipes.
Yeah, or you can just Starfall, trigger both counterspell and that.
A million different ways to solve this very simple puzzle.
The Druid pressure just too much here for the Reno mage.
Yeah.
Pretty sure you just Starfall a minion, and then it gets both the counterspell and the Spellbender out of the way, and then you just swipe Moonfire.
Power takes many.
Yeah, it's fine too, because you can Moonfires and then swipes for 5.
Yeah.
What?
What?
Am I missing something here, TJ? Is there a secret I'm not accounting for? He's clearly playing around as, like, I guess...
What?
I think he's still okay, right? He wins anyways? So he played around splitting image?
He didn't need to. The only thing he had to do was Moonfire Face. The only counter to that is Counter Spell.
Yeah.
And then he just swipes for 5.
I'm in agreement with you.
What the heck?
I'm pretty confused myself, but it doesn't look like it's going to matter here.
You win.
fr0zen concedes. bloodyface takes game number 2. Pretty sloppy at the end, but it doesn't really matter.
I guess, but whoo.
Maybe he's just trying to spook us with his boo in the background. It's thematic. It's Spooktober, TJ.
Because the first thing he did, he checked for Flame Warren, he checked for Ice Barrier, he checked for Vaporize. There's only Splitting Image, there's Counterspell, there's Spellbender.
Right.
You're targeting the face with the Moonfire. So that tests for Counterspell. That's the only secret that matters at that point.
Yeah, or, I mean, he could, once he attacks face, he can also just Starfall and then see Counterspell and Spellbender and then just swipe Moonfire for 5.
Well, after he played the Lodi, he couldn't do that because he didn't have mana for.
Yeah, which the Lodi was also unnecessary.
The Lodi was that's the simplest way, right? Because then you only have to worry about one secret. It's just Counterspell.
Yeah.
You Lodi, Moonfire,
I
swipe.
don't know.
Guaranteed.
Brain fart.
No questions.
It's a brain fart, not a big deal.
Yeah.
If it did cost him the game.
No, it's a big deal, Dan.
If it did cost him a game, then we'd be making a bigger deal out of it in terms of the misplay level. But
Yeah.
it looks like we're going to game number 3. It's not going to be a huge difference maker.
He played around Ice Block, Dan. There it is.
There we go. So bloodyface has his own Reno mage, by the way, 2 players. Bringing Reno mage this week, and I wonder if bloodyface is just gonna not play priest because of the threat of Reno mage. He's just gonna queue it. And fr0zen has shaman or Reno mage, and I'm pretty sure it's clear that he's just gonna play Reno mage, right?
You would think,
Because
yes.
it's too risky to just play shaman when he has priest though.
It is, yeah.
So he just queues Reno mage because the worst thing that happens, he gets the mirror.
It's like the 3rd time this has happened today where players mind game themselves out of a better matchup. Because, unless, of course, it's all about the perception of matchups, right? If bloodyface thinks that priest is better against mage, then he's going to queue that over the odds of a 50-50. Maybe he thinks that his win rate against fr0zen in the Reno mage mirror that is lower than 50-50. Maybe he thinks that fr0zen is better at the deck than him. And that's why he doesn't want to queue in the mirror. The decks are identical. There's one difference, and there's a Twilight Drake in bloodyface's deck for something in fr0zen's deck, which I can't spot right away. I don't even know.
You got this, TJ.
I don't.
Tell me.
Power of Creation. Bloodyface has a Twilight Drake, fr0zen has a Power of Creation.
There you go.
It's the only difference. I don't know.
I'd take that over this matchup. I think, well, fr0zen has 2 cards that immediately can just blow the game out, which is Doomsayer and Mossy Heart, and to a certain extent Polymorph too, because Polymorph can also mess up the pool, pool of Resurrects.
I mean, there's Doomsayer, Polymorph, Zephyrus, Reno the Relicologist, Polymorph, Voodoo Doll.
I mean, Polymorph, I think, is a little overstated. I've relied on that card a lot in the matchup, and they just actually beat me anyways, because there's only 1 out of, like, what, 4 or 5 minions that can revive anyways.
Yeah.
Doomsayer's like, well, you're just not doing anything unless you Topsy it.
Yeah.
So, bloodyface can't do anything now, so he loses that. fr0zen doesn't have a follow-up. I think the big thing is if they play Stargazer Luna or they play like an Arcane Intellect. Mossy Heart, though, means that Augment Wards are just really not going to do anything. So, yeah. Now, the fact that fr0zen doesn't have a follow-up is actually a pretty important thing. It is. That bloodyface can just develop pretty easily. The Injured Blade Master, though, if that gets polymorphed, oof. Bad times ahead.
There's Reno.
Yeah. Polymorphing this means that it can't get revived. Also, I want to give a shout out to Conjurer's Calling. That card's also saved my butt a handful of times. When they pump a Light Warden, I just Conjurer's Calling it, and they just summon a couple of useless 1-drops.
Yeah, same with Northshire Cleric. Even sometimes if you really need to get rid of a massive other thing.
Psychopomp pulls up to 2-6. That's actually a really good draw. And this is what I was talking about. Polymorph doesn't actually save you a lot of the times.
Need a key?
Flame Ward is really good.
Flame Ward can
Yeah,
very nicely set up for a better Reno the Relicologist.
Spellbender is always on the back of your mind up against this mage deck, so you have to be very cautious with when you engage with that secret if you can't defuse it.
I wonder if bloodyface wants to kind of load up as much health as possible to play around the possibility of Reno, like throw an Acolyte of Pain onto the board.
Yeah, I think rolling into 6, Reno the Relicologist is absolutely what you think about. There's also one other threat you have to consider.
What?
The friend of Mike Wazowski, Mr.
Is
Mossy.
someone
Oh,
injured?
yeah.
You play Acolyte and a Mossy
Got you,
Horror,
friend.
you're real sad. Like really, 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 really sad. Good sequencing for bloodyface to really punish a Flame Ward.
Yeah.
And this still does look like a really good Mossy Horror, so.
Yep. And then you have something to fight for board for the following turn when you play Reno.
Right.
Oh, it's so good.
That was a 6-mana 2/7 that dealt 14 damage onto the board.
Nice. So now I got to think about what a reload looks like, and without like Circle of Healing, everything seems so weak to a lot of things. There's no way for him to like really play around Flame Strike.
Yeah, so at every mana slot is like a threat check, right?
Yeah.
There's Doomsayer, and then there's Polymorph, and now there's usually Voodoo Doll as well, and then you have Reno, Mossy Horror, Flame Strike. The truth is you can't play around everything, so you just gotta make do with what you got. With Mossy Horror being played, it means that Acolyte Pain is at worst a 1-card draw source. But if you play Injured Blade Master, it's still not going to change much. Or sorry, if you don't play Injured Blade Master, things aren't going to change much. So you got to do both. It makes you vulnerable to Flame Strike. I agree with bloodyface here. I think you got to load up and hope that they don't have it. And now from fr0zen's perspective, you got to think about Conjurer's Calling in this spot here to fight back for tempo.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder.
Pair of 6 drops. Ooh.
Yeah, the Violent Warden being very nice to stop any kind of like surprise cheese attacks.
Yeah.
Which would have been pretty effective. He still does have a big attack. Wait, if bloodyface picks up Divine Spirit number 2?
With the silence, is that enough? He's playing a Wild Pyromancer on the board, which is his way to draw cards.
Right, Circle of Healing first means that he kills the Pyromancer after the second spell. No, signs the 4/6 though.
Yeah.
Wait, no. If he Divine Spirits now, it goes 12 to 11. If you Divine Spirits now, he goes 12. I guess that's a really hard commit though, right?
That's a very hard commit, yeah. And with this heal, he shuts off his ability to find the lethal. If his very next card is Divine Spirit, though. Oh, okay.
It was unlikely, so.
Yeah.
You can trade. Oof.
Setting up for the 2-turn lethal, though.
Yeah, assuming there's no freeze. But actually, that's not true. He knows that there's a second copy of Conjurer's Calling in hand.
Yeah.
So he knew that this was a guaranteed dead Injured Blade Master. So I think that was just a futile attempt. He kind of knew that this was like his best way to get in the damage, but he's hoping that a Bonsomdi reload is going to be enough. In this spot, fr0zen can just Reno.
Reno still have Conjurer's Calling, still have a ton of freezes left as well. So he can kind of just build up a big board and then freeze turn after turn now that Silence is gone. Oh, bloodyface has 2. Okay.
Oh. Hoping not to draw that.
Yeah. Still has a good amount, not really a good amount of 1-drops. He has 1 Beaming Sidekick and both of his Light Wardens.
Still decent. 7 mana, 7/7, draw 3 is really good still.
Yeah, I would agree. He still has Unmet too, so pulling out these 1-drops increases the likelihood that he draws Unmet, which then he can play Unmet plus the 1-drops to try and make like this wide board where every minion is a threat.
Hey, I got you, friend.
Is that a voodoo doll? Oh my
Oh,
goodness. Voodoo doll, Conjurer's Calling. This is brutal.
I mean, it's probably more efficient to just Conjurer's Calling the 6-drop and then Voodoo Doll.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter what he did as long as he played Conjurer's Calling.
Yep.
And bloodyface looks like he's locked out of this one. The Reno mage crushing the priest as it is designed to do.
That's the best draw bloodyface could hope for.
Yeah, except now fr0zen has an opportunity to actually go for tempo. He can just push damage over the course of 2 turns and win.
So what does he have to be worried about? He has to be worried about, for example, let's say bloodyface goes for a Met plus dump all the 1-drops here. fr0zen freezes the board and pushes face. Silence plus health buff plus inner fire, he'd die. Because bloodyface plays 2 silences.
You're right. That is possible.
So if that's the play that bloodyface does go for.
But Blizzard, does that save him? No, it does not.
It wouldn't.
I see a dark future.
In the light's name.
I like saving the Northshire Cleric for after he wants to heal and draw cards.
So using the extra arms first means that bloodyface does not give himself.
Well, what he does is he can, well, you can book a spectacle, but he can Blizzard and then trade in the Whelp and then go face and try to set it up that way.
Yeah.
What spells remains in this mage deck?
Still a good amount.
There's Flame Strike. There's Frostbolt, Ray of Frost, Element of Evocation. A lot of junk, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think I like Blizzard. Trade the 2/2 into Ahmed.
And then push face.
And then push face, or maybe even kill Ahmed. Why not, right?
Yeah,
like
that might be the only. That could be the only way he loses the game, right?
Yeah.
So it would have to be silence, and then
It's 2-turn lethal if you push face. That's the only tempting thing about it.
Yeah.
I guess this is technically 2-turn lethal because you have Alex Straza, and you have more than 15 damage on the board.
Yeah. No, it's just safer to kill the Ahmed. Just way safer because if you silence a Light Warden, it goes down to 2 health. Yeah.
Is someone injured?
I mean, if this next card was Inner Fire, right?
Yeah. It still wouldn't have been enough just because he used the other More Arms.
Ah, you're right.
That's why I didn't want to use the More Arms because then it opens you up for like that one outer. Yeah. That's assuming your opponent has a freeze, which we could see. But at that point in the game, it's pretty likely they have a freeze.
Topsy. if bloodyface set that up, he would have had a silence Topsy lethal with double More Arms and extra arms.
Yeah, because he would have silenced it, healed it. It would have gone up to 7.
No, if you silence it, does it go? Does it actually heal? Because it goes to max health.
No, he would have healed it. He would have silenced it. It would have been a 2/5 still.
Okay.
And then he would have healed it, gone up to 7. More Arms, extra arms, Topsy Turvy for 11 damage.
That's assuming fr0zen didn't kill it, though.
Yes.
fr0zen did the right thing of killing it every time. And that is why you have to think about your opponent's outs. Very good lesson by fr0zen. That's not going to be enough.
Yep.
16 power showing.
Yep.
Frozen's going to close this game, close this series. The Highlander decks proving their strength, despite the fact that bloodyface has what many consider to be the best deck in the format.
Priest really struggling today, Dan.
Struggling against the Highlander decks.
It was struggling against a lot of stuff. I mean, it was even struggling against Paladin. Not the Highlander Paladins, just the regular Holy Wrath Paladins.
It was getting wins early, but it was getting wins in the mirror and against Druid and Shaman, which we already know is a bad matchup for those decks.
Yeah, but against the matchups that have been like eking closer and closer to like the Priest favorables, we saw fall today, and all the Highlander decks just giving us a kind of a Priest clinic today. Very nice, very nice.
Go ahead and check in with fr0zen, the madman himself, bringing the Highlander Paladin. What's up, fr0zen? Can you hear us?
What's up?
Nicely done. Yeah, so in your words, go ahead. Why bring Highlander Paladin, a deck that you climbed to high legend with this week?
I played quite a bit of games with it, and I feel like the deck is just strong, and it feels like it really doesn't matter what your opponent draws. Like with these decks, as long as you draw well, and I think it's a good majority of the time, like your opponent just can't do anything about it, and especially with that Paladin deck. So it's all around good, and I think it's especially good versus Priest. So like during testing, I think I was able to win like 55-60% versus a good Priest player over like 10-15 games. So that's not something you can see from most ladder decks.
It's true.
Most decks in general.
It's true. It seemed to perform really well today. For some quick background, what was the inspiration behind it? Did someone post a deck list and you saw it and you're like, I want to try it out, and then liked it? Did someone recommend it to you in a practice group? How did you find this deck in the first place?
I actually copied it off Sand, except I changed one card, so it's my deck now.
Well said. Well said. fr0zen, I think earlier in the season, I think a couple weeks ago, you were saying that you were in contention, if not you were the sole possessor of the most wins in Grandmasters over the course of the 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. Is that something really important to you? Because it's something that I felt like you were bringing up every now and then.
No, it was just a cool fact, but apparently Changsu has a chance to tie it, so.
That's true.
I'm looking forward to him not being able to tie it.
Was there any other player that you were trying to convince to bring this deck? You mentioned Sand. You're going to be playing against him tomorrow.
Yeah, because I'm playing against them, I didn't really prep with them, so. But he came up with his own Highlander deck, so we'll see if these 2 decks match up.
That's right.
The hunter versus the paladin, the mech hunter.
Well, you got to beat him so you can get #1 in your division, right? So that you can claim the most amount of wins there. I think that'd be really good.
It's crazy. I was able to bring the season back, and if I beat Sand, I think I'll be sole possession of first. So.
Nice. Nicely done. TJ, any last questions here for fr0zen?
No, just kind of a refreshing matchup after 6 weeks of just watching Priest get free wins over and over again. It's nice to see someone come in, shake it up.
fr0zen with this win now has another interesting contention where he might be #1, which is ending the day with the most amount of wins. This is something we point out.
Ending the day with the most amount of interviews, right?
Yeah, we do like a day-ending interview where we give the player to say whatever they want to say to sign us off. And you are tied, I think, for first before going into today because you were tied with Dog. And now I think you are #1 because obviously Dog's not with us. So fr0zen, what would you like to say to wrap up the day here as the last interview?
Apparently Dog's not with us, so RIP Dog.
Agreed. May rest in peace.
Yes.
Congratulations, fr0zen, as he is one step closer to claiming #1 division. He'll be playing against his buddy and practice partner, Just Sand, who's going to be part of that boot camp. Sand will be fighting for #1 in his division, but most likely going to be locking up that playoff spot. Let's go ahead and recap what we saw today. So go on and get ready to get out of here. PNC versus Amnesiac started things off. PNC with that Hail Mary 25er with the Holy Wrath to start things off at the Paladin versus the Druid. That was a fun match. Then we got to see what many are considering to be the final moments of Strife Go's hope to stay in Grandmasters as Purple was able to take him out 2-1.
Yeah. Finish off the day with Muzzy defeating Eddie 2-1, kind of knocking him down a peg, getting Muzzy closer to locking in that playoff spot. Definitely a player in contention as we move forward to the last few matches of the season. Firebat took down ETC, and fr0zen took out bloodyface. fr0zen looking for that first place seed, as you mentioned, with that matchup against Sand, which is going to happen tomorrow.
That's right. That should be fr0zan's featured match, although I think one match that people also want to see is who is going to be fighting for that relegation spot in Division B. There's Race, who's going to be trying to get that win. Zalay also looking to get that win as well. Now that PNC has cleared the hurdle, who will also be the player that's in contention?
Zalay or Race
for next year.
Zalay or Race. That's what that race comes down to. So big matches for both of them tomorrow. And you heard from PNC, he's like, yeah, you know, it would suck to see Race relegated, but I got to make playoffs, man. That win's big for me. So kind of a bittersweet feeling has to be going into that one for him. So a lot of big matches tomorrow. Saturday should be a fun day.
Yep, Saturday should be a fun day, and I think we're starting to see the resolution of how all of the standings are looking. If you take a look at Division A, Eddie, Nagidan, Purple, very close to being guaranteed. We do have to find out how Gallon is going to wrap things up. He's the only other player that's in contention, along with Firebat and Muzzy kind of fighting for a spot, but really it's that 4, 5, 6. For Division B, though, we already have 3 players locked in. It's about that Monsanto, Amnesiac, PNC spot. And what a story it would be if PNC once again finds a way to sneak into playoffs. If Monsanto 0-2s.
Deja vu.
Despite the awful start that he had at the beginning of the season, where I think it was 1-3, 1-4, and he was playing very poorly.
Yeah.
And then be able to pick it up when he's taking it more seriously and realizing that, you know what, I got to put more time in.
Yeah, and Amnesiac, you know, he's had an up and down season as well. He started 1-4, then won 5 matches in a row to go to 6-4, and has now lost 3 in a row to go back to 6-7. So, you know, he's kind of on the downtrend, whereas PNC's on the uptrend. But Monsanto is a player that you can never expect or can never rely on losing a few matches in a week, because he's been one of the most consistent players over the course of 2 seasons of Grandmasters. So if I had to guess, I would say Monsanto's is going to lock it in. But PNC, he's done sneakier things before, Dan. Just sneaking right on into playoffs. Maybe he'll do it again this season.
Little rascal.
Yeah, a little rascal.
Gets in there. Monsanto will be playing the aggressive Overload Shaman that John Bray has popularized. That's going to be coming tomorrow. America's definitely delivering, and we couldn't be more excited to bring you the action. We'll be back tomorrow at 2 a.m. Pacific here at twitch.tv/playhearthstone. If you missed any part of this broadcast, or you're very curious as to what fr0zen is bringing with these Highlander Paladin and all the Highlander decks this weekend, check out playhearthstone.com/esports for the schedule, VODs, and much more. We're done here. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend. We'll see you back here tomorrow from fr0zen, TJ, and everyone here in Studio 5 in Burbank, California. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for more Hearthstone action.